I'm Becky Fawcett, a mom by adoption, an infertile blonde, a female founder, and an entrepreneur. The podcast rulebooks say that you have to have the same intro always for your podcast. And I don't really like that. It's not how I go through the day. So we're not going to do it. And today I'm going to tell you that when I was growing up with 5 kids, my siblings would send me in to my dad when something went wrong. I would be the advocate to get it. And my dad told me when I started helpusadopt.org that he was so glad I found another way to use my powers for good to advocate for problems I saw in the world versus in his house. Because he said most of the time I was hard to ignore because I was right, but he had to ignore it because he was the dad and had to keep order. So he was very happy that I found a road through Help Us Adopt to come in and say, this isn't right, and I'm going to talk about it. So the podcast, Fawcett Report, is part of that. Today's guest revolves around a lot of things. The main thing is that she is a mom by adoption, and that's why we are introduced. She came from the world of media, which was my former life. And then she opened a bookstore, and I'm a reader, and books have always been a part of my life, thanks again to my dad. So it was a natural fit to have Fran Hauser on. She is also a best-selling author, a keynote speaker, a LinkedIn top voice. She's a dynamo. She's a dynamo. And we're going to talk about all the amazing things that she's done in her career, and I know she's not finished. Fran Hauser, welcome to the Fawcett Report.
Becky, it's so nice to be here with you.
I'm so glad. It's been a while because you're busy, I'm busy, life is busy. But let's talk quickly about how we met because it's a pretty funny story.
Yes, it is. So I was working at Time Inc. and really focused on People magazine, In Style, Entertainment Weekly, like the style and entertainment brands. And Rachel Honowitz, who ran events for People, sat in the office right next door to me. And she just popped into my office one day and she said, you have to meet Becky Fawcett. We featured her in People magazine. It was one of those, if I remember, it was a Real Heroes feature. And they were featuring you and all the amazing work that you've done around adoption, advocacy. And she said, you guys have to meet. And so we met.
But do you remember what happened? I remember what happened when she was in your office.
Tell me.
She is friends with my friend Keith, who's on the board. And she went in and said, you have to meet this woman. She was featured in the magazine. And we all have one of those boxes on our desk with a stack of papers that we're eventually going to get to. And you said to her, wait a minute. And you had torn my article out of the magazine and I was in your to-do list because of the adoption connection. And Rachel was like, what? And I was like, what? And that was it. And then we met for coffee and the rest is history. But I will never forget that you had read the article before we were introduced and thought it was meaningful and put it in that. I'm looking at my box right now on my desk. I'm like, oh God, I should go through that.
Because back then, like print still matters. There's so much online now. But back then, I remember always tearing pages out of magazines and newspapers and keeping that stack. That was pretty amazing.
It was so funny. Let's talk about, so you left Time Inc. after a very impressive career, and you wrote this book, which was so good because everybody thinks you have to be horrible to people in life to get ahead. It's so unnecessary. And we've all had those female bosses. We've all had them. I really had one at one point. The Myth of the Nice Girl. Let's talk about it. And you worked in media in Manhattan. And let's be honest, magazine industry wasn't really kind. Probably isn't still kind. It just is a weird culture that sort of has evolved in decades. And I don't know that it's ever going to change. But you wrote this book out of it.
At that time, most of the books for women around leadership were really promoting a more masculine form of leadership. And I've always leaned into kindness and compassion and warmth because that's just who I am as a human being. And even as a leader in the media industry at Time Inc., I led with those qualities. And I really believe that they served me well as a leader. I think one of the first words that people use to describe me always is, oh, she's so nice. She's so nice. And the word nice gets such a bad rap because nice girls don't get the corner office. And in my case, I did. And it's not despite being nice. I really think being nice was one of the reasons why I was able to accelerate in my career because it really allowed me to develop deep relationships with people. It made negotiating easier. Top talent wanted to work with me. It was easier to hire people. I mean, there's all these good things. It was interesting though, Becky, because mentoring has been such a big part of my career, no matter what stage of my career, and especially mentoring women rising in their careers. And so I always knew that I had a women's leadership book in me. But it was really my agent who was like, there's a million women's leadership books. So you have to have a really specific point of view. You know, what's special about the way that you lead? And that's really what brought us to the myth of the nice girl.
It's so interesting. It really is a catch-22 because if you're too nice, you're a pushover. And how do
Yeah.
you walk the walk of really caring and being kind and also being listened to and an
Yeah.
authority figure maybe in your job and not be discounted as they can't handle it, they're too nice. I remember, I think, forgive me if I've misspoken, but I think you told me a story once that when you were young in your career, you sat in a meeting at Time Inc. and you were taking it all in, and you in your head was saying, I can't say anything. I can't say anything. And your boss, I believe at the time, said, you should say what you're thinking. You should share your opinion. Because that's a good idea. And am I
Yeah.
remembering correctly?
Yes. The only difference is that it was actually when I was at Ernst and Young.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
was at Ernst& and Young, Coca-Cola was a client, and we were always at the Coca-Cola offices, and we were always in
Mhm.
these meetings, and I never spoke up. I felt like I was the junior person on the team. What am I gonna say that is really gonna add value or be meaningful? And I've always been on the shyer side, so I think that also had a little bit of an impact on that too, but it was my manager, it was Lou Sharetta, who I actually wrote about in The Myth of the Nice Girl because after one of these meetings, he just pulled me to the side and
Yeah.
he said, Fran, you need to speak up. If you don't speak up, you're just going to continue to be invisible. You're not going
Yeah.
to develop relationships. So you're smart. You have points of view. You have opinions. You have thoughts. And that conversation was so important and really career changing for me because I knew that I had to make an effort. And I even just started with before the next meeting, I read the agenda in advance
Mhm.
and I just picked one thing that I felt
Mhm.
confident about and I kind of, like, rehearsed in my head what I was going
Yeah.
to say. So I'm sure it was a little bit awkward, but it got me to speak up. The more that I did that, the more
Yeah.
comfortable that I felt. And I also think, Becky, the important part of that story is that Lou took a second, like,
Mhm.
right there in the moment to give me that feedback. He didn't wait until the annual performance review, which is
Yeah.
what so many of us do. And
Yeah.
so I really appreciated that.
It's funny you mentioned so a couple things. Number 1, I think it's at least for me, I think we're in the same age box check, but, like, I grew up in the '70s and '80s, high school in the '80s, and I was never the smartest kid in the class. That's it's not self-deprecating. I have different talents that came out much later in life, but academics was not I was middle of the road, fine. But I was terrified to speak up in class because I wasn't always sure I was right, number 1. And a lot of the time, I didn't agree with anybody in the room. And that is what, in my later years, has gone on to serve me well because I saw things differently than everybody else. I was too scared to say it back then. And now I realize that's one of my magic powers is that I'll be like, I think we're all doing this wrong. I think this needs to be done this way. And here's why. And then you merge it all together and come with a solution. But I think young girls need to be encouraged. And boys also, because you have boys, I have girls,
Yeah.
but I tell my girls, like, you don't have to agree with everything. You just can't say no and draw the line. You have to say no and why, or what part of something bothers you. And maybe we could come up with a different solution. I don't know, but
Yeah.
give
Yeah.
them the
That's good.
confidence as teenage girls to speak up in the world and
Yep.
say, I don't really like this. And always tell them, though, but you're not allowed to use this superpower against me. I'm going to teach you how to do it, but you can't use it against me.
Exactly.
We do have a very open relationship where life is not always perfect. And I have this team at work where it's the same thing. It's you can't be perfect all the time. And so how do you then work out things in a respectful way and encourage everybody to own a piece,
Yeah.
bring something to the table that changes the way we do things, or if we can't change, takes us in a new direction. I don't know, but
No,
it's
but
interesting.
I think it's like this idea of being nice doesn't mean that you're agreeable all the
Yeah.
time. Because could you imagine if we just all agreed
Yeah,
with each
no.
other all the time? Like it'd be really boring. Forget innovation, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like we want to build on each other's ideas.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, Becky, I love that. And what if we did this? Or,
Yeah.
so yeah. And I love that you're talking to the girls about that. I definitely talk to the boys too. I think it's really
Well,
important.
that's funny too,
Share it
because
under-
if someone said to me once with my career, they're like, you're showing your girls how to do it. And I said, let's be perfectly honest. If I had boys, I'm showing them how to do it too, if I had boys, because they are going to work for a woman someday. We all know that. And if boys aren't raised that they're going to have a female boss that they aren't going to be as smart as, they aren't going to be as good as, they aren't going to measure up. And they need to learn how to deal with that. And I think there's a lot of men who I've interviewed men over the years. And sometimes I'm like, I have to say, how are you going to feel working for me? How are you going to feel working for this strong-willed, outspoken woman? And I think this is very interesting when it rolls into your book. I think there's stuff out there about you and your book that says this is required reading for women. I think it should say women and men.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah,
think
I agree.
because men, Jesus, they need more of the book. Well, women really need the book, but really.
Yeah, no, and they struggle with a lot of the same things.
And now that
know?
women play a larger role in the workplace, men were taught to this old boys network. That's gone. So if men aren't now reading your book, they might not want to read your book. They might put a cover over it, but they need to because that's part of the problem is a lot of men who are senior were never taught how to involve women into the workplace. And I think that is interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we can say Myth of
Yeah.
the Nice Girl and P.S. Men, you should read this book too.
That book came out in 2018. So it's
Oh
been
my
8
gosh.
years. Can you
Oh my gosh.
you
I remember coming
imagine?
to your book launch party.
I know, it's been 8 years. The one thing I didn't expect to come out of that book is the speaking platform that it really was the catalyst of my speaking platform. I've spoken at over 200 organizations, conferences, and it's interesting because I think what started as speaking to women's ERGs, now I'm speaking to everybody. It really has become much more inclusive because a lot of these topics are things that are relevant to everyone.
They're relevant.
So
to
they are,
everyone.
they're relevant to everyone. But yeah, no, it's been 8 years. And what's really interesting is so 4 years after The Myth of the Nice Girl, Embrace the Work, Love Your Career came out. That was that came out of COVID. And now my next book is coming out 4 years after that one. So there's something about the four. My next
That's
book is coming out in
exciting.
September. So it was like 2018, 2022, 2026, which is really exciting.
You beat me to the punch on talking about your next book. Embrace the work, love your career. And by the way, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't know who Fran Hauser is, Google her. She's going to tell you where to find her at the end of this, but it's worth getting these books we're going to get to where her bookstore is, but if you're not near her bookstore, Amazon, is that where people should go? Everywhere.
Bookshop.org.
Yeah. But these books, they're different than everything because this Embrace the Work and Love Your Career, again, this is men too. And I have my friend Jack, who's been on the Fawcett Report, who is now in his next chapter, a sort of a pivot coach for this unstuck moment you're talking about. And I think women especially get stuck with this mommyhood. Let's be honest. You really get stuck. And men do too. So it is a very interesting thing. What would you talk about that? Because I know I have listeners who are stuck and they're just like, I had to make a choice and now I'm paying the price for it. But I stand by my choice of staying home with my kids or working part time and whatever the stuck is. Or now I'm in my 50s and I realized I hate this job.
We all have these seasons that we go through. And I love Neha Rush, her book, The Power Pause, I think is like really an important book. I love that book about if you do choose to pause your career and to stay home with your family. She talks about all of the incredible skills that you learn being a mom and how you can apply those skills to the next professional phase of your life. And the reason I wrote Embrace the Work, Love Your Career, and I remember the moment, like, very vividly because I was literally sitting at my laptop like I am right now, and I was reading an article. This was like we were just coming out of COVID, and there was an article about how 14 million women had left the workforce. I was like, "Gosh, I really wanna create something for them." All of these, like, exercises that I've used over the years and these tools and techniques, and I'd love to create something that might be helpful to them, which is why that book is actually a workbook. It's in a workbook format. One of the exercises that I really love in the book that helps you get unstuck if you're not happy with where you are professionally, and I really love this exercise, is to go back, look at your calendar for the last 3 months, and literally go day by day and find the moments, the meetings, the conversations, the events that put a smile on your face. Like, then when you think about them, they just bring you joy, and then dive into why. What was it about that experience that was special? Was it the people that you were with? Was it the type of problem that you were solving? Was it the skills that you were using? Looking for those through lines, because if you can figure that out, then you can really think about, okay, like, where do I want to be putting my time and energy? And is there something that I can create for myself within my current organization, like that checks the boxes? Or do I need to like start thinking about doing something else? But this idea of like really being aware of the things that energize you and also the things that drain you and being intentional about leaning in to the things that energize you and really trying to let go or remove yourself from the things that drain you. I mean, look, there's always going to be stuff that drains us, but if you could get more than half of the time that you spend on things that you actually enjoy doing, it's game changing.
I do use myself as an example because I have a lot of friends who stepped out of work for kids. A
Yep.
lot of friends. I didn't. I babysat a lot when I was younger. I have an oldest of 5 kids, and I know how I'm wired, so I did not step out to full-time motherhood. It is not how I'm wired, and I knew that at the time I had a PR firm that me working and building my own business made me a better mom when they got me. But and then there was the help us adopt. But it's not the perfect answer either
Yeah.
because along the way, the girls would be like, "So why aren't you like the other moms? Why aren't you in school helping with Xeroxing flyers for our handwriting class or whatever it was?" And I remember being like, "Oh my God, they don't like that I work because they see a different chapter." And I had to explain to them when they were way too young, probably to get it, that I'm wired differently. And that if I was a stay at home mom, they wouldn't get the best of me. And that is just how it is. And
Yeah.
how now they get the best of me because I do something that makes me full, that makes me proud, gives me the happy moments in my 3 months back. And yes, there's crap on my day-to-day schedule that I don't like, and that comes with any job. I tell people that there's the way it is. Same reason we have to do laundry and clean our homes. That's not
Right.
fun either, but you have to do it. So I do think it's so interesting, and I talk to women all the time. I'm like, my one friend was gonna go back. She said, "But I can't go back to the company." I'm like, "The world has changed in retail. Like, I'm 20 something years out, and it's so different." And I said to her, you're probably going to laugh and go, "It's in the book." I said, "Okay, so you have managed 3 kids. You have managed your household. You got 2 crazy dogs." I'm like, "Your dogs are nuts, but they're nuts. Your husband's never home, travels for his job. You cook. You do your grocery shopping yourself. You get everybody to like you're at everything for school. You have 2 different schools." I said, "Go be an office manager somewhere."
Mm.
She's like, "Well, I wanna be in corporate." And I was like, her home is impeccable. She has just that design taste, Fran, that just she
Yeah.
puts stuff together, and I walk into her house, I'm like, "Did you hire a decorator?" She's, "No, I just did it." I'm like, "Guess what? Start looking at smaller interior design firms.
Yeah.
Start going into something you love. You aren't an interior designer, so you probably can't actually, you're not trained that way, so maybe not, but go be an office manager there and be surrounded by what you love. And she was like, "Did you just come up with this?" I go, "Yeah."
I love that. And
Use
yeah.
your skills as a mom
Yes.
because that's the hardest
Yeah.
job in the world. I
Yeah.
had it easy going to work every day.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and I would also say, like, if you think that you're gonna want to go back, like, to a career at some point, if you can, like, just even just stay connected with people, just, like, touch base with them
mhm,
every once in a while, like, have coffee, because those are the people that are gonna give you a chance
yeah,
when you do wanna come back because they know you. They know
yeah,
what you're capable of. They know how much value you
yeah.
create. So that is the other thing, like, that I worry about when I see some of my friends who they are doing the pause and then they do wanna go back to the career, but I feel like they've just completely taken themselves out. Stay in touch with people.
And have things to say and reach out to people and say, "Oh, I just read this book." And there's ways to keep in touch with people
Right,
too that
right,
are
right.
so
Like
easy.
low lift, yeah.
Yeah. But it was funny when for everybody listening, I used to have a PR firm and then I had Help Us Adopt as this small side hustle for 2 or 3 years. And then when the Fawcett Group was 10 years old and I had adopted my second baby, and it was insane in my apartment every day, I was like, "I think it's time to shut down the PR firm and see what helpusadopt.org can actually do." Because there was a lot of promise, obviously. It was the right move now, 19 years later, but there was a lot of promise. And I shut down the PR firm and it became like public because people knew. And I started Help Us Adopt, and I didn't take a salary at the beginning for a while. So I was working for free. Did you know? Everybody thought I just stopped working. They were like, "So why do you not work?" I'm like, "I do work.
Yeah, probably
I
more than
do
you did
work."
before.
And they all thought because it was a nonprofit that it was like this little hobby on the side. And I was like, this is a very terrible lens for these other women to be looking at me and thinking, I'm not working. Like, oh my gosh. And it's really hard. So, whenever someone says, I'm thinking of giving up my job, tell me what you think of this. I always say, number one, financially, does that work? Let's be real. Let's be real. Does it work financially or should you go part time or whatever? And if the answer is we're fine financially, what's that going to do to you as a human?
Yep.
What
Yeah.
will you do during the day? Because sooner than later, the preschool years are over and they're gone from 7:30 in the morning till 4 or 5 if they play middle school sports. Like, so what happens then? And I don't think enough people say that out loud to their friends to be a shoulder and like a workbook like Fran
Yeah,
Hauser
yeah,
created, right? What does that look like if you step out of the workforce? So
yeah. And I think
talk
those
about some pages in your workbook that might help people map that out.
I think those are really important questions, and it's so much of it is just about being intentional, really thinking through. And I love your question about what does your day look like? Like, I remember after I left Time Inc., I was doing my startup investing. We moved out of the city completely. Like, we
I
were
was so sad. Was that like the
remember
saddest moment for me? Because
I know, I remember, 'cause but
so
it's
sad.
true, like, so many of my friends in the city, like, I just don't see them as
Yeah.
much. But then a couple of years after, I was being recruited by an organization based in the city, really big job, and it was so flattering. But then I literally did this exercise where I was like, "Okay, let me just picture what my day is going to look like. What
Mhm.
time do I have to wake up in the morning? Taking the train. It's an hour and 45
Yep.
minutes door to door. And then, like, thinking about what time am I getting back home and, like,
Yeah.
the kids, like, when am I gonna see them? And it just became so clear to me that it wasn't the right move for me. And
Yeah.
it's so clear
But
and
tempting.
very tempting. And so this idea of what is my day going to look like, really thinking about that. And how does that make you feel? When you think about that, how does that make you feel? And I also really believe, and I've learned over the years, because I think in the beginning, when my kids were really little, I had so much mom guilt,
Yeah.
especially when I was working at Time Inc. and I was working late hours, and we work so hard to create these families, right? We
Right.
hate to adopt them. So now I have these amazing kids. I had this guilt around, I just wasn't spending as much time as I
Right.
wanted to with them, which is why I left corporate and I went to work for myself as an investor. The other thing that I've learned, and I've talked to a lot of psychologists about this, is that giving your child like 20 minutes of uninterrupted, really present time, like where you're with them, you're on the floor with them, you're playing, and you're not being distracted by your phone versus trying to be with them for a couple of hours, but you've got your phone and you're being distracted. So that's the thing too that I would say is even if it's in shorter bursts, right? Like
Yeah.
just being present for
Yeah.
them. That goes such a long way. So it really is about it's so cliche, but it's like it's
Well,
quality over quantity,
listen,
right?
my helpless adopt was tiny when they were little, and I always tell people my work team was very tiny compared to what it is now, but I left every day at 2 o'clock back then. I left
Yeah.
the office because pickup was 2:35.
Yeah.
And the work team knew that I was going to do pickup, and I got home, and then there was a babysitter, but I did the pickup, and then I went back to work. By 3 o'clock, I was back on the computer working,
Yeah.
and that's how I did it. And yes, I was my own boss, but I built something for the life I wanted,
But
which,
that's exactly right, and that's why for me too, I wanted to build a more
yeah.
flexible professional life. I wanted like, I treasure driving the boys places. I love that time,
Oh
and
my God, that's so funny because I never
I
want to
love
live in the suburbs again and drive anybody anywhere.
but you know what? It's because, like, they're the most willing to
But they're
talk, like,
captive, right?
they're
They're held
captive,
captive.
and we
Yeah.
have the best conversations, and
Mhm.
I literally especially when they were younger, like, I would create my work
Yeah.
schedule around that because I wanted
Yeah.
to drive them in the morning, I
Yeah.
wanted to drive them in the afternoon. It's just
And
not
now with the teenagers, I'm home a lot in the evenings and on the weekends, and they don't need me, and they don't necessarily want to talk to me for 20 minutes. They know I'm home, and people are like, "Well, what do you do with them?" I'm like, "I'm just home. We're doing our," but they know that I have consciously stayed home because of them. And I think
yeah,
that I know that matters. I really know that matters. Might not this they might not get it now, but when
but they
they're
will.
30 or 35, they'll be like, she worked like a dog, but she did come home. I want to do one more work question before then we're going to go in the bookstore. But one more work thing. So now what I get, instead of taking a step out of mommydom, is at 55, I'll be 56 soon. When are you going to retire? What would I do all day? Going back to your thing, I can't retire. What
Yeah,
the heck would I do all day? I don't want to keep working 60, 70-hour weeks. Forever, that's a lot. But retire?
yeah, yeah, and it's interesting, my husband retired last year from PwC.
Yes.
You're forced to retire at the age of 60 because they're making room for the younger
Well,
partner,
and
right?
you're geriatric at 60,
I know, you're
obviously. Like you're
I know,
useless,
right?
right? Yeah,
Right. But I love the way that he's approached retirement. He's so
that's great.
happy because he has purpose. He is a volunteer at our fire department, at the Bedford Fire Department, and that's what gives him purpose. He spends so much time, like he goes out on calls, he drives the ambulance,
That's,
he's on like the
yeah.
court or whatever now. But I love watching that. And I also love the fact that he still has these advisory roles for AI companies,
Yeah.
something that like he's really interested in.
Yeah.
And he's spending a lot of time with the boys who are
Heck
teenagers,
yeah.
which is
You have to
that's what I
fill the
get.
time.
You have
People are
yes,
like,
and you need
you
purpose.
can't just go, and someone's like, well, don't you want to be a lady who lunches? I go, for how long? I don't even do that during the week, but like, how long does that get old? And maybe for some people that's perfect, but
Yeah.
it's not a one size fits all here.
No,
And I
it's
think
not.
that's why
Yeah.
your workbook is so good because it's a workbook.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
telling you the right way to do it. It's providing the structure for you to figure it out on your own. And that's why I
Yeah.
think it's just such a great book.
Thank you.
I highly suggest if you're stuck, or even if you think maybe in 5 years I might want to do something else, get this, embrace the work, love your career. It's a great workbook. And now we're going to go, my dad's going to come back into this podcast. Obviously, he played a huge role in my life, but growing up, he was not really giving with extra cash for us as kids. He wasn't like that. He's like, you'll have what you need, done. And I'd be like, Dad, I'm on starting lineup at tennis and my shoes are a mess. He goes, don't look too bad to me. Like he had to just fall apart to get anything extra. However, you want to go bookstore? We had money always, no matter books. That was it. And he'd be like, no, you don't need new running shoes, but let's go buy $100 worth of books.
Oh
And
my gosh, I love that.
that was it growing
My
up. So
kind
the
of parent.
kids, I do the same thing. I was always like, I'm not buying you that video game. And they were like, we don't have the money. I go, no, that's not it. Let's go buy books. You can buy whatever you want in the bookstore. There's no limit. There's not one book. Buy whatever you want. And I love that sense of reading. And I've read so much in my life. So when you opened a bookstore, again, I'm just sad. It's so far away from me. I can't pop in all the time. But let's talk about that. What made you? I know for a while you had your Fran's Bookshelf Instagram account and you were reading, but what really propelled you into that Fran's Bookshelf? And then when the world is not brick and mortar anymore, I'm so proud of you. That was a risk.
You.
That
Oh
was a
my gosh.
risk.
Huge.
Everybody's
Yeah.
saying, I heard on something on the news recently, I was talking about Amazon, and it was some guy saying, I forget what year, I should have paid more attention, but the year Amazon launched, there was something like, making it up, 4,000 independent bookstores in the country. And 3 years into Amazon, there was like 364. They couldn't hack it.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it. And I think from my perspective, you've created a community, I think is what you've really created there. And I think that's why you're going to be over the top successful. People crave community.
Look, there's the retail piece, obviously, right? But the bigger part is definitely the community. It's bringing people together around books, it's connecting readers and authors, it's championing authors. As an author myself, it makes me so happy when we have author talks and launch parties, and it's just a dream come true for me. Like, it's something that I've thought about for so long. And I have to tell you, like, originally, Fran's Bookshelf, which was just an Instagram account where I reviewed books, that was sort of my, well, I can't open a bookstore, so I'm going to do this instead. And then basically what happened was it was September or October of 2024 where a friend of mine who was business owner in town in Bedford, New York, called me and said, "Hey, we're moving out of this space. And I know you've always wanted to open a bookstore.
That's
This is
amazing.
the perfect spot for a bookstore." And I went, I checked it out. It definitely was not the right time because I had just signed my book deal for
Okay.
the book that's coming out in September. But you know what, Becky, when is it the right time? And I was
It's
like,
never the
it's the
right
perfect.
time.
So
It's never.
I decided to do it. I decided to go for it. And I love it. It's been almost a year and a half. It's the first bookstore ever in 344 years in this town. The community has completely embraced it. We have book club tonight. We're talking about Lady Tremaine by Rachel Hauser, which is an incredible retelling of Cinderella from the evil stepmother's point of
Oh,
view. So good.
good. What's it
Lady
called?
Tremaine. Lady Tremaine, Tremaine. So I'm so looking
Okay.
forward to that. Like this morning, I was getting ready for it, putting together the discussion questions.
Yeah.
But we've hosted over 100 events at this point, and we've only been open like a little over a year. It's what you said. It's like it's bringing people together. I see it all the time. Like people who just moved to the area, they come to book club, they make friends. It's so special. It's
Yeah.
so
No, it's really
special.
great. And all roads lead to Help Us Adopt. And I definitely want to do something with you for National Adoption Month this year. I will make my way out of the city,
Done.
but I really
Done.
want to do it because we have time to talk about one last thing. We should be here for 3 hours today, but I feel like every book I pick up these days, tell me how you feel. I'm like, I'll be reading it. Someone will be like, it's good, but that's all they tell me. Or I pick it up randomly. And I'm like, of course, page 40, there's the adoption theme. Like, I feel like adoption is becoming, and I'm always curious if the author has a personal stake as a mom by adoption and someone whose career this is. Does the author have a personal relationship with adoption, or did they just write about it because it's salacious and people want to know about adoption or
Yeah.
something? But one of my favorite books right now, which is so popular, and I'm sure that you are selling out of it, is The Correspondent.
Oh my gosh, The Correspondent, cannot keep that book in
It's so
stock.
good.
It was the biggest, I would say it was our top-selling book in December, like, for the
Mhm.
holidays, like, as a gift.
That's when I first heard about it from a
Yeah,
friend, but they didn't
yeah.
tell me what it was
It's
about. They
well,
just said, "You have to read it."
and, there's a deluxe edition out now, which is absolutely stunning. It just came out a
What
couple
do you
weeks
mean?
ago.
What's deluxe about it?
Still,
More,
oh,
are
it's
there more
really sweet.
letters?
There is actually a special letter from the author to her
Okay.
readers, which is in that
Okay.
book, but if you look at it, it is so stunning. It's hardcover without a dust jacket.
Okay.
The pages, the sides are the edging has this, like,
Oh, beautiful.
beautiful decorative edging. So it's just a really stunning book. Take a look at it. But yeah,
Okay.
adoption is a part of that book, and I do feel you're right. I feel like I am seeing it more
I'm reading
often.
some little, I'm not gonna say the title. Someone posted it on Instagram. It's like a
Yeah.
beach read chick lit book, but there's adoption in that too. I'm like, it's
Yeah, but
everywhere.
which is great, right? Because I
So when we
sometimes, like,
do an
feel
event, we're gonna list all of them,
yeah,
and yeah, we're gonna
we could
all
do,
put
like, a
our,
little we can curate a selection. We'll
yeah,
have a little
yeah,
table of our favorite books
yeah.
because,
But
it's all about reading is all about building empathy, telling stories about adoption in these works of fiction, like
yeah,
right? Novels can really be impactful.
yeah.
So I love it. I really love it.
It's just bringing it into everyday life. So I'm thrilled when it's there because for decades it was the secret thing that kept
Yes.
behind the door number 3, and it should be talked about every day.
I
This is
mean,
a way so many people build their families, and yeah,
it's
so
so
cool.
funny. It's so funny. Literally, like, I remember when the kids were younger, people would ask me, "Do they know they're adopted?"
People would ask me that in front of the kids. I'm like,
"Do they know they're
hello.
adopted?" Oh my wow, okay, yeah. So,
Yeah.
that's why I think the
Um,
storytelling is really important.
yeah, no, people would ask me that in front of them. I'm thinking, seriously? Come on.
Yeah.
But it is funny. Now, all right, tell everybody. I feel like we need to have a chapter 2 of this podcast because there's so much we didn't get to talk about. Will you give us a sneak peek at what September's book is about?
Yeah, the title is 20 Minutes is the New Hour,
Mm.
and it's all about helping women reclaim their time. So, there's 2 parts to it. The first part is the behaviors that hold us back when it comes to our relationship with time. And then the second part is just really simple shifts and practices that help us free up time in our daily work lives. So whether it's meetings, inbox management, things that we're doing all day long. But really, like, the reason I wrote it is because I do all these talks around the country, and it's literally like the number one most universal pain point that comes up. Every talk that I do when
Mhm.
it's time for Q&A, it's, yeah, I want to build my network, and yeah, I want to create a really strong personal brand, and I want to build some new skills, but I don't have the time. So that was really the inspiration for this next book. I'm so proud of it. It's
Wow,
being
that's
published by
exciting.
Penguin Random House Crown
All
Press.
right, so maybe we'll do a fall
Yeah,
podcast to
that would
launch your
be
book
great.
off into
Yep.
space. But let's plan on that because that's what I'm like. I need another day in the week. I need
Yep.
another day in the week.
Yep.
And I can't
Yep.
do no sleep. So I can't work till midnight or
Right.
be
Exactly.
out till midnight. So how do you make that work? I think this is great, Fran.
Great. Thank
I
you.
can't wait to read it. That'll be exciting. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media and where they can find your amazing Bedford books.
So the 2 platforms that I'm on the most are Instagram and LinkedIn, Fran Hauser, on both, and then Bedford Books on Instagram is Bedford Books _
Amazing. It has been such a wonderful long-term friendship here, friends for life. And I just wish we were closer. But I'm going to come up in November. We're going to plan something out. We'll have you back on the Fawcett Report in September. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Thanks for
much. And
having
thank
me.
you for writing these books that are just, they're helpful. 30 Seconds with Becky Fawcett. So I want to go back to Fran Hauser's second book called Embrace the Work, Love Your Career. It is a workbook, and it's really about getting unstuck. And I've talked about this before. I will talk about it again. Because also, even if you're a working mom, which we all know we hate this title, but you get stuck in different ways. Okay. So let's just say you've stepped out of the workforce to be a mom or a dad, and you have this gap on your resume, and the world has progressed, and you don't have that work experience, and you want to go back to work, and you feel you can't. I think the biggest hurdle in talking to all my friends about this is no one will want me. I have this gap. And here's my take on it. You can't care about that. You cannot care about that. Most people aren't going to want you. That's why you have one job. You don't have 10 jobs. Okay. So It's like anything else. You find one person you spend your life with. When I was looking to rescue my dogs, I was looking for the one face. And I saw 100 different dogs until I saw Lulu's face. And I was like, that's the dog. So only one person has to care about you for you to do something new. And you just can't care. If you want to go back to work, if you want to pivot, if you want to get unstuck, do something you've never done before, do it. You're going to have to face rejection. That is looking for any job. Even if you were still in the workforce and you decided to look for a new job, you face rejection. So try to erase that from your brain and just figure you're going to have to get a bunch of no's before you get the one yes that sets your world on fire, and you will be on your way. But that is the one piece of advice I would offer you. You can't care if people don't think you're up to snuff, because I'm going to tell you right now, there's people who think I'm not up to snuff. You can't care. 30 Seconds with Becky Fawcett. So thanks for listening to the Fawcett Report today. I'm so glad you are here. And all I hope every day is that people will see the world a little differently and possibly use your voice to make a difference. And there's so many ways to do it. You can follow the Fawcett Report on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And you can message me on Instagram or Facebook. And I actually am the one who responds, as long as you're not mean. Funny that we're talking about the myth of the nice girl. I don't do mean. You can disagree with me, but you just can't be mean. Not going to do it. And finally, if you're curious about my adoption advocacy work and family building work through helpusadopt.org, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, as well as the website. See you next time.